André Breton was a French writer and poet. He is best known for being the founder of Surrealism. He was born on February 18, 1896, in Tanchebray, a small village in Normandy, France, to a modest family of shopkeepers. Breton excelled in school as a child and developed a love for literature and art quite early. Despite his love for contemporary art, he attended medical school and took a special interest in mental illness. Breton's education was interrupted by his service in the First World War. In 1915, he was assigned to work as a nurse in psychiatric wards of military hospitals, but never qualified to be a psychoanalyst like he wanted. His hatred for war led him to become greatly intrigued by the psychotherapeutic practices of Sigmund Freud, who he would later meet in Vienna in 1921. He also began writing poetry at this time. December and Age were among his first poems. In 1916, Breton joined the Dada movement in Paris, which stemmed from a passion of psychiatric art that tapped into the subconscious. Dadaism was a cultural movement in visual arts that protested the barbaric nature of the war. However, Breton's ideas started to deviate from the Dadaists when he co-founded the review of a French magazine called Literature with Louis Aragon and Philippe Soupault in 1919. The journal ran through 1924 and contained the first example of surrealist automatic writing, or surrealist automatism. This form of writing, free form and without self-censorship, was among Breton's first surrealist innovations. His growing commitment to surrealism and dislike for Tristan Tzara, the leader of the Dadaists, led Breton to officially break from Dadaism.
That year, he issued the first of 3 surrealist manifestos, defining surrealism as psychic automatism in its pure state, by which one proposes to express, verbally, by means of the written word, or in any other manner, the actual functioning of thought. Thought, in the absence of any control exercised by reason, exempt from aesthetic or moral concern. Surrealism is based on the belief in the superior reality of certain forms of previously neglected associations, and the omnipotence of dream and the disinterested play of thought. The document announced the new movement's form of liberated ways and the rejection of social and moral ways. It encouraged free expression and the release of subconscious mind. The group was fascinated with the fine line between reason and irrationality, deriving from dreams, erotica, and mental disorders. In 1927, in commitment with Marxism, he joined the French Communist Party but left in 1935. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Breton wrote political and philosophical tracts, poems, and novels. Nadja, published in 1928, became his most famous novel. It is said to be a semi-autobiographical description of Breton's romantic relations with a psychiatric patient, a young woman named Leona Delcourt.
We see surrealism in the works of music artists such as Pink Floyd and Lady Gaga. Salvador Dali, a famous painter, is another artist who was greatly influenced by Breton. He is best known for his creations based off surrealism. One of his most popular pieces is called The Persistence of Memory. The unconventional aspects of the surrealist movement also influenced Tex Avery. He was an American animator and voice actor who developed the famous characters of Saturday morning cartoons such as Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig. Surrealism was a means of a world where dream and fantasy would be joined with the everyday coherent world. His works and his foundings of surrealism have greatly influenced others over the years. Breton wanted people to expand their minds and express their imagination freely and without limits. He pioneered the concept of fusing art and culture until his death in 1966, but his legacy will endure forever.
Less Time, a poem by André Breton. Less time than it takes to say it, less tears than it takes to die. I've taken account of everything. There you have it. I've made a census of the stones. They are as numerous as my fingers and some others. I've distributed some pamphlets to the plants, but not all were willing to accept them. I've kept company with music for a second only, and now I no longer know what to think of suicide. For if I ever want to part from myself, the exit is on this side, and I add mischievously, the re-entrance is on the other. You see what you still have to do. Hours, grief, I don't keep a reasonable account of them. I'm alone. I look out of the window. There is no passerby, or rather no one passes. You don't know this man? It's Mr. Same. May I introduce Madam, and their children. Then I turn back on my steps. My steps turn back too, but I don't know exactly what they turn back on. I consult a schedule. The names of the towns have been replaced by the names of people who have been quite close to me. Shall I go to A, return to B, change at X? Yes, of course I'll change at X, provided I don't miss the connection with boredom. There we are, boredom, beautiful parallels. Ah, how beautiful the parallels are under God's perpendicular.